evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is an historic day in the history of electronics, and from the NBC newsroom in New York, we bring you a report on color, an attempt to answer the important questions that you would wish to have answered tonight about color television. How soon will we have programs in color? We go to the Colonial Theater in New York, largest of NBC's color studios, in just a few moments. Now, other questions: how soon will I have color in my home? Well, we go to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a pilot production line to get that answer. And how does color TV work? We'll go to Princeton, New Jersey, and there at the Princeton laboratories, we'll get the answer from the scientists who made color television work. First, we welcome to the NBC newsroom the president of the Radio Corporation of America, Mr. Frank Folsom.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Jim, a newsroom is very unfamiliar to me. Now, where do we begin?
Well, Mr. Folsom, we begin by going to Hollywood, where a very distinguished commentator is waiting to get into the act. So go ahead, Hollywood.
Color TV. Science has overtaken Durrani. This is what I get for spending the summer at the racetracks. It's the beginning of a new era. But I gotta face it. Color, color, color. Eddie! Eddie! Show out the old TV sets. All 14 of them. Start with the one on the back porch. Show them out.
Jimmy, don't do it. Hold everything.
That voice. I know that voice.
Jimmy, this is Frank Folsom in New York. Don't do it.
Eddie, I changed my mind. Don't throw out the TV sets. Eddie, stop! You saved me from a catastrophe. I have quite a bundle tied up in picture tubes in my humble abode.
So are we all, Jimmy. Just take a look at the American skyline tonight. Over 25 million TV antennas and receivers. They're all compatible. Of course, you know what compatible means, eh?
Know what it means? There ain't nobody more compatible than Durrani.
So we've heard. This was the first concern of the RCA scientists. Here was a huge American investment that had to be protected. These antennas with their black and white receivers had to get the pictures before.
I'd like to walk barefoot through them.
Be our guest. Jimmy, here's what we mean by a compatible system. On your present receivers, you'll see black and white programs just as you see them today. But more important, you'll be able to see every color transmission in black and white. That's the meaning of compatible, all-electronic color television. No blackout for today's receivers, no picture problems.
If you run into any problems, just call me. The number is Inka-Dinka-Doo, 8300.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'll keep in touch. Good night. Good night.
Now from the NBC newsroom, we switch to the stage of the Colonial Theater in New York, largest of NBC's color studios. Jimmy, if you take a close look, I think you'll see an old friend.
Sylvester L. Weaver, Vice Chairman of the Board of NBC.
Hello, Jimmy. This is the place, the most exciting place in the world today. Yes, this is the first great color television theater.
It's amazing.
It is amazing, Jimmy. And it's more than amazing. It's a great challenge to all of us. Those of us in entertainment who have to use color with creative inspiration to bring about, we hope, programming innovations that will excite and increase our audiences. That goes for writers and producers, directors, actors, entertainers, all of us. We now have a chance to enlarge and improve our television service. Those of us who are working on the coverage of the real world, we now have a new dimension to work with, reality. For color means reality. What you see on the screen is what you would see if you were really there. Our newsmen will now bring you the blazing red center of a 4-alarm fire or the blush on a politician's cheek. Whatever any man can see in our country, every man can see. The wonders of our beautiful country in color. And so this great program service will bring the real world and entertainment and storytelling to us all in color. If we program intelligently, the grand design of television will accelerate mankind's forward progress. And from this theater here, the Colonial Theater, NBC attractions and stars will begin to be seen in their color premieres starting at once. All the great names of show business will be on this stage in the weeks to come including, of course, the one and only James Durante, Esquire.
The impact of it all. Who will be with you when you're old and gray and red, green, blue, and chartreuse? I'll have to use softer tones. Ink, a dink-a-dee, a little red, a little blue. A little blue, there could be too much blue. Pat Weaver! Pat! Pat!
Yes, Jimmy? What is it?
Am I gonna look natural on color TV? Will they see me as I really am?
As you really are, Jimmy, in glorious color.
What a relief.
Well, I have here Dick Day, 6-time Academy Award winner and NBC's color consultant. I'm sure that he can reassure you. Dick?
Hello, Jimmy. For the past 2 years, a group of scenic designers, costume designers, and makeup artists have been working in color television at NBC. Costumes are designed in color to complement the actor and add a dramatic element to his characterization. Generally speaking, backgrounds are muted and simple so that the attention is focused on the performer. The problems of makeup are handled by experts to ensure that the performer, in color, is a living and natural human being. The complexion, the eyes, the lips, the makeup must be perfection, even to the nose.
Colossal. Stupendous. Pat, if I may interrupt, could we take a moment to explore the financial aspects of color television?
Of course, Jimmy.
To put it bluntly, if and when it all goes well, what's a color receiver gonna cost me?
Jimmy, it'll be well into next year before color sets are available. And there won't be many of them at first. The cost, well, about $800 to $1,000. Jimmy, what are you doing?
With that kind of money involved, I gotta reappraise my investments.
Jimmy, this is a good time to talk about color sets. The first will have 14-inch pictures, and they will be expensive. There will not be very many of them at first, but as always in American industry, ingenuity and know-how will see to it that the product is streamlined, the sets are increased in value, and in general, following the same course as black and white television, you will soon find color sets being built that are economical and very good. Meanwhile, your black and white receivers will get all the programs that we ever put on in color, and you will be able to see everything. So if you need a black and white set, you should get one right away.
Is that so? I'm sorry, Pat. I just lost my head for a moment. Eddie, you heard what Mr. Weaver said. Go out and buy me another television set. That'll make it an even 15.
Jimmy, you're loaded. Now, come with me as we go a bit farther backstage in color, to the control room. Through this door past the finest broadcast engineers in the world. And with them now is NBC's Vice President in charge of engineering, Mr. O.B. Hanson. O.B., what goes on in there?
More than meets the eye, Pat. More than meets the eye. And incidentally, this is no place for a man who is colorblind. Just now, our cameramen are checking their cameras on color test patterns. An important prelude to any broadcast in color.
Okay, okay for the blue now. Let's register the red and green. Ed, give me some red hues. Hold it, that's enough.
We're at the end of the range, Warren.
Okay, now go to the right.
There we are.
Okay, go.
Hold it back.
Now that's good. Okay, Ed, that finishes the blue. Now let's register the red and green. Okay, now red and green.
We're at the end of the range.
In color TV, the control room is about 3 times as large as we know it in black and white, due to the additional equipment needed for color TV. These color cameras are much more complicated than black and white TV cameras. In effect, they're about equivalent to 3 black and white cameras. These color cameras are equipped with 3 image orthicon tubes, one for each of the 3 basic colors, one for red, one for green, and one for blue. It is by the proper combination of these colors that many thousands of colors and hues and shades may be made to create a full and natural color picture. Obviously, the control of these mixtures must be carefully done by skilled engineers at the control board on my left.
Okay, Ed, now that we got the glue set, let's register the red and green. Okay,
All right. Hold it.
Now, that's good. Okay, Ed, that finishes the blue. Now let's register the red and green. Okay, now red and green.
We're at the end of the range, Warren.
We leave the control room of the Colonial Theater to go to Princeton, New Jersey, to the RCA laboratories. And to Jimmy Durante in Hollywood, we introduce Dr. Elmer W. Engstrom, Vice President in charge.
My pleasure, Dr. Engstrom.
My pleasure, Mr. Durante.
You can call me Jimmy.
And you can call me Elmer.
Elmer, I got a question. I don't want to appear retrogressive, but when I get a color receiver, will I be able to see black and white telecast? Just for old time's sake.
Of course, Jimmy. Just as your present receivers will get color in black and white, so your color set will get all future black and white transmissions. You're compatible, remember? And Jimmy, while we're here in Princeton, I want you to meet Dr. C.B. Jolliffe, Vice President and Technical Director of RCA.
Hello, Dr. Jolliffe.
Hello, Jimmy.
Dr. Jolliffe, how long has research in color television been going on?
In fact, electronic television research has been going on since 1923, when Dr. Zworykin of RCA invented the iconoscope. That's the all-electronic camera tube which laid the foundation for the development of electronic color, way back in 1923.
That's a long time ago. I was a mad boy at the time.
We first demonstrated electronic color in 1940. Then, with the war, our research turned to military assignments. Since 1945, we have worked at perfecting all electronic compatible color television. And now, it's a reality.
It's colossal. Durante is catching up with science. Tell me everything. And don't even omit an apostrophe.
Well, get on board, Jimmy, and fly with us to Princeton. There's the famous university, and close by, these world-renowned electronics laboratories. This is the David Sarnoff Research Center. Let's go inside. And here's our first stop, a very quiet spot indeed. This is the audio laboratory where sound is tested in a world of deep silence. Sound to complement the color picture. And sound is an important part of this story. Through the years, there have been sounds at Princeton intelligible only to the practiced ear of scientists. Sounds of broadcast frequencies, clues along the way to the transmission of pictures in color. And along the way, this historic test pattern, part of early black and white TV research, decorated with a friendly but anonymous Indian. Side by side with the men who perfected monochrome or black and white TV, scientists were at work on the far more complicated problems of television in color. It is here that outstanding electronics engineers devoted hundreds of man-years of work to bring us compatible color television. The work went on. Two main objectives: high standards of performance, compatibility with black and white TV. These men were living in our futures. And one day at Princeton, this old black and white test pattern gave way to a new one. Color came to the laboratory. Research went on. In color TV, the image is broken up into three primary colors: red, green, blue. Now, with these primaries, almost any color in the visible spectrum can be described electronically by selecting the proper values of hue, saturation, brightness. Tubes are an important part of this story. The scientists who developed RCA color television bring a range of colors to the screen even wider than that achieved by commercial color printing or color photography. And flame is part of this story. These men are working with glass, an ancient art, but here at Princeton, it worked for the future. Tubes were designed whose purpose, at the time, just a gleam in the eye of a scientist.
It's the original Kiss of Fire.
No, Jimmy, as a matter of fact, it's the original RCA tricolor kinescope or picture tube, first demonstrated in 1950, a milestone in the history of electronics.
I'm fascinated.
Well, good. This single tube with its 3 color guns is the heart of the receiver, and here's how it writes its message with a fine pencil of electrons, a model slowed down hundreds of thousands of times. Now we can see just how the electrons spray the picture tube. First they hit a shadow mask, then the face of the tube itself. This shadow mask has hundreds of thousands of tiny holes. It's really the traffic policeman, assigning each color to its correct position on the screen. Under the microscope, looks just about like this. Now the color picture itself appears on a phosphor screen. As many as 600,000 phosphor dots on it, arranged in precise patterns of red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green, blue. And Jimmy, a phosphor, as you know, is any material made luminescent by a radioactive agent. You did know that. It has to be just right, too, so that when it gets the message from the electron gun, it glows with the right color on the screen. These are the men at work who found the chemical formula that made these phosphors just right for color TV. So in our picture tube, we have the shadow mask, and in front of that, the phosphor picture screen. Now, take a close look at the tricolor gun in this picture tube. That's it. Put them all together, gun, shadow mask, phosphor screen, and there you have the reality of the tricolor, all-electronic picture tube. And here at Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the RCA Victor plant and the first pilot production line of these kinescopes getting underway. To get those red, green, and blue phosphors just right, they're placed on the screen in this fashion. Pioneers on the color television production line. There's that tricolor gun being very carefully installed. A picture tube, it has to have a vacuum. Checked and tested. Again and again. A pilot production line for color television in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a careful prelude to coming mass production. By the end of the first year of color television, RCA and NBC will have spent $40 million to bring color to the homes of America. Once the receiver needed over 100 tubes like this, but today, down to home size. And full details of design and performance of RCA's basic color receivers have been turned over to virtually all set manufacturers in the United States, a move that has few precedents in competitive industry. And what's true of color receivers, coming true for cameras. Today they have 3 eyes like that, 3 image orthicon tubes to see color, red, green, blue. And tomorrow, we'll look at tomorrow now, at the laboratory. Tomorrow they'll have 1. Just as the picture comes in a single tube to the receiver, so the camera tube is soon to be 1 image orthicon. In this home of science at Princeton, New Jersey, the future is indeed crowding the present. Today, the color kinescope brings a 14-inch picture to the home receiver. Tomorrow, research will bring a giant color tube like this one. Red, green, blue. Brightness, saturation, hue.
Everybody wants to get into the act.
Yes, Jimmy, everybody, but To develop color TV took just about everybody. In color television, a vast amount of electronic information has to be transmitted. And the men who have brought color to the broadcast spectrum have achieved a near miracle in packing all this information into a narrow channel. Transmitters will be sending out the color signal on the same 6 megacycle channel that carries today's black and white programs. Think of that channel as a railroad track, though of course it goes out in all directions. A channel that could not be widened, yet it had to carry a far heavier load. A tremendous challenge to science. This is color TV sitting for its own electronic portrait, an instrument called the vectorimeter. It's no modernist abstraction. This is the electronic heartbeat of color TV. The 6 points of the symbol represent red, green, blue, the primaries, and their equal mixtures, magenta, yellow, cyan. And all this electronic information is today carried to its destination, your home, without usurping any part of the crowded broadcast spectrum. Not long ago, it took 3 separate channels to carry the color signal. Now it takes 1, the same one used in black and white transmissions. This has been a tremendous engineering achievement. Tonight, our story of color TV has taken us to Hollywood, and to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and to Princeton, New Jersey, to the Colonial Theater in New York City. And now we go to the RCA building in New York, where we're to hear from the man whose leadership in electronics has inspired these men of science to create compatible color television. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board of the Radio Corporation of America, General David Sarnoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to congratulate the Federal Communications Commission on the action it has taken today in approving signal standards for compatible color television. The RCA system operates on these standards. Approval by the FCC of compatible color television broadcasting is a great victory for RCA, but an even greater triumph for the public and the television industry. RCA developed the compatible color television system. We have fought and worked hard and long for its adoption for commercial use because we were confident from the beginning that it is the right system in the public interest. Without the essential feature of compatibility, your present television set would go completely blind to color broadcasts. But with the compatible standards now approved by the FCC, you will be able to receive the color pictures in black and white on the set you now own without any changes whatever. This day will be remembered in the annals of communications, along with the historic date of April 30th, 1939, when RCA and NBC introduced all electronic black and white television as a new broadcast service to the public at the opening of the World's Fair in New York. At that time, we added sight to sound. Today, we add color to sight. RCA is proud of the leadership its scientists and engineers achieved in developing the all-electronic black and white television system, the all-electronic compatible color television system, and the RCA tri-color tube, which made the latter practical. Dedicated to pioneering and steadfast in our purpose to give America preeminence in communications. We shall continue our efforts to advance and to merit the faith and confidence the American people have in RCA as an emblem of quality, dependability, and progress. And now, where's my friend Jimmy? I'd like to have an opportunity to talk with him.
General, I was hoping you'd call me in for consultation. You know something? This is bigger than both of us.
You're right, Jimmy, and I'm delighted that you're with us tonight.
General Sanoff, the pleasure is all mine. It's a thrill to be part of this story. And I want to add my sincere tribute to the scientists who are bringing us this wonderful colored television.
They've done a tremendous job, but there's so much more that these men of electronics will do for us as they go on to new achievements. Yes, Jimmy, we live in exciting times, times of great promise. And television in color is only one of the many inventions that is ours to enjoy. If the statesmen and the rest of us work for the peace we must have, there is so much that science can bring us. If we can concentrate on the arts of peace in a world at peace. Good night, Jimmy, and good night to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Durante is ready. I'm ready for color TV. But is color TV ready for Durante?